Hi there, how's everyone doing? I hope you're all doing well today. I'm just going to share my screen, hopefully. Oops. Okay. So I'm here with Laurel Christian, who is the PEO program coordinator. I'm the PET program coordinator, and oftentimes we get questions about what is really the difference between these two programs. So we're going to walk you through step by step the power engineering technology and the power engineering operations programs. We'll talk a little bit about what makes them similar and a little bit about the differences between the two. So we're going to be going over a broad description of both programs. We'll talk a little bit about the first year, second year co-ops. These are two students who actually have graduated, so you can see I didn't update this slide from the last time. So Seth will be helping us talk about the co-ops a little bit, and then we'll talk about third and fourth year and employment opportunities, the different companies that are available. So often we hear the first question is, what is power engineering? Power engineering is the study of generation, transmission, and distribution of electric power. So to really focus in on this definition, Maine Maritime Academy, we focus even more on the generation aspect. So when you're looking at these things, generation, transmission, and distribution, transmission and distribution are more the electrical side, and generation is more of a mechanical with some electrical classes that we take. This picture right here is of Calpine Westbrook, and this picture, this power plant right here in the state of Maine down by Portland is where I had my first co-op. This is a 2-on-1 combined cycle gas turbine plant. It has two HRSGs on the back ends of two gas turbines, which feed a steam turbine generator. So this is about 500 megawatts, and it's a good example of where a student could co-op or where a student could work after they graduate. So common to both programs is that they both lead to a Bachelor of Science degree. Both programs are accredited by NEASC. Both programs focus on power generation. Both require 2 co-ops, and the programs have about 75% of the same classes. So this is very similar to how the Marine Engineering Technology program and the Marine Engineering Operations program are split up. Both the power side and the marine side, we have a core group of classes that we share across all of the programs. Both programs also allow students to sit for a State of Maine Stationary Engineer's license. I'm just moving some of my buttons out of the way here. Hold on, bear with me. So specific to PET, what separates PET and PEO? We focus in the Power Engineering Technology program on getting our graduates ready for almost any entry-level position in the power industry. So we're going to prepare students to be frontline supervisors. We're going to prepare students to work at construction facilities, constructing power plants. We can prepare students for work in manufacturing, many different areas, whether it's maintenance, reliability, operations, or construction. We are also nationally accredited by ABET. So every 6 years we go through an accreditation process. We're actually in the process of being reaccredited now. The PET program also requires more of the technical classes, so more of the higher level math classes than the PEO program. We have 2 free electives and a few humanities, social sciences electives. And it would require an overload to obtain a minor or concentration as part of the degree. Absolutely doable, but it would be a little bit more difficult to get a minor without overloading your course schedule with more than 18 credit hours in a semester. In the PET program, students who have the required number of STEAM hours can sit for their 3rd class stationary engineer's license. So with 1,050 hours of acceptable high pressure STEAM experience, students may sit for their 3rd class stationary license. The PET program requires 2 10-week co-ops, usually at a power generation facility. As the coordinator, I can be a little bit more flexible. Construction of power plants, if we are further along in the construction process, can be allowed in the PET program. And then after successfully completing coursework, students can sit for the Fundamentals of Engineering exam, and that's the first step in becoming a licensed professional engineer in the state of Maine. And I'm going to hand it over to Laurel, who's going to talk about what are some of the differences with the PEO program.
Hi everybody, I'm Laurel Christian. I'm an assistant professor at Maine Maritime, and I'm also a 2011 alumni. I did the MEO program, which is similar to the PEO program, except you ship out. It's definitely the more hands-on major compared to the PET program, and it's a lot of fun. But the big difference is at the end of your 4-year college career, you're going to end up, if you get your allotted 1,000 hours, 1,050 hours of co-op experience, you're going to come out with your be able to sit for your 4th class stationary license for the state of Maine. And as said before, it's a lot more hands-on. You're going to be taking a firefighting course, welding, machine tool. There's actually a maintenance section where you're going to actually fix things on the ship, the state of Maine training ship. And it's a really fun major, and it allows you to be a little more flexible. There's a lot more flexibility in taking different classes, different electives. So if you wanted to double major, PEO might be the better option. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Thank you, Laurel. This is something that we have just added recently, which is called an environmental sustainability minor. And as Laurel was saying, if you wanted to have a minor or concentration, you could easily add an environmental sustainability minor to a PEO major because you have much more room, you have more free electives, so you could add this easily into your schedule. So this is something that you could talk to the registrar about or talk to your advisor about once you get accepted. So we're gonna kind of quickly go through the differences year by year. And so starting with the first year, Laurel, you want to take us through PEO and then I'll go through PET?
Sure. So when you begin your freshman year of PEO, the major, you're going to do composition, which is writing, pre-calc, fundamentals of engineering, intro to structural programming, firefighting, and 1 PE class, which you should definitely take in the beginning of your college career. Otherwise, by your senior year, you really don't want to do PE. And Fundamentals of Engineering is actually a fantastic class. You get to, it's a very hands-on class where you learn about valves and how, just the basic things in an engine room, how they operate. And it's a really fun class. So. And then your spring semester, you'll take humanities, tech help, physics, graphics, firefighting and ships maintenance, along with PE again. So again, very flexible course load. you only have 13 credits as compared to the PET program where you are taking 16 credits in your fall year, and same thing with the spring. You have a lot more flexibility to take electives. But other than that, it's pretty similar to the PET course outline, which is great if you wanted to change your mind about your major. You could your first year swap over if that first semester you wanted to change. I'll send it over to you.
Okay. So as Laurel was saying, the first year is very similar. So we have just a difference in intro to structural program and structural programming. These are just slightly different classes. And then we have the addition of the humanities and social science elective here. Power equipment lab is taken in the first year spring semester for PET students. This is a class that PEO students take as well. And this is another wonderful class that's really hands-on, where students get to learn more in depth about different types of equipment, heat exchangers, valves, pumps, how alignment occurs, and that sort of thing. So we'll take it. Did you want to talk a little bit about what they usually do for the state of Maine, Laurel? I know this year has been a little bit different with COVID.
Sure. Typically, the training ship is a 500-foot vessel with it has one main propulsion engine and 3 generators, which the students will see when they go on the co-ops. They might be exposed to engines, along with there'll be maintenance projects that the students will be required to participate in, and they are graded on their participation, and that's where they really learn how to fix things in an engine room. So it's a really cool training tool, the state of Maine, and it's a wonderful thing that PEO students get to work in a real live engine room to expose themselves to that type of atmosphere, because that's what a ship is very similar to a power plant, except it floats. They're very similar in the fact that it's making power, or it's making on a ship you're making propulsion and power. It's just a smaller application. So it's a really great tool. The students really enjoy it. You get to do a lot of different things, and it was one of my favorite classes when I was here at Maine Maritime Academy.
I was also a graduate of Maine Maritime Academy. I'm 2003 PET, and I remember being on the ship in fundamentals and just really enjoying it. So I totally agree. I think it's a great learning tool, and it really helps introduce students to the environment of an engine room and that heavy equipment. So I completely agree. Okay, I'm just gonna run through the right-hand side here, the PET, and Laurel, feel free after I run through if you wanna jump in with anything for PEO. So for PET, this is where it starts getting a little bit different. You'll see the first in the fall semester, statics and dynamics. That's a course that the PEO students do not need to take. You can see we've got tech physics, steam generators, fluid power, and welding, and it's actually the only semester, one of the only semesters where PET has fewer credits than PEO. We have fluid power, welding, chemical principles, strength and materials, computer applications for power, electrical power 1, thermal 1, and machine tool practices. So some of the differences in the spring semester, strength and materials is not required for PEO students, and neither is computer applications for power. And then we have machine tool 1 versus machine tool practices. So PET students are learning more of the theory, and PEO students are doing more of the hands-on, creating different parts and pieces in the machine tool lab itself. Laurel, want to add anything?
I guess the other difference I'm seeing here is the Diesels 1 and Diesels 2 classes and labs. That's a PEO program. class that's different, and that is where they actually get to tear down, learn the theory behind a diesel engine, and then get to actually tear one down and replace cylinder heads and learn how to do valve lashes. And it's another pretty neat hands-on course the PEO students get to take part in.
Awesome. Yeah. PET students will take Diesel Power 1 later in their plan, but they do not take Diesel Power 2. So that's a really good point. One of the courses that I teach is steam generators, and what we do in a normal academic year where we can spend lots of time on campus is we bring students down into Curtis Hall and we do a boiler tour. So as we are learning about boilers, we're also able to walk down this fire tube boiler and see the different parts and pieces that we're learning about. So we try to incorporate hands-on learning, actual learning out in the industry with the classroom as much as we can. This is another one of the hands-on demonstration pieces that we have. We use this small turbine in some of our engineering labs as a way for students to really connect with the learning material. So I'm going to let Seth talk a little bit about co-op, and this is a job site that one of our students, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, you did not work on this job site.
Actually, Professor Ferreira, is that Fairview in its early stages? Because if it is, then I actually did work on that.
Okay, this is where Justin Wasakin worked. I'm not sure if he worked at the same plant as you did, but he did work for Kiewit.
I think he worked in the plant in a different part of Pennsylvania, but it was still in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, my name's Seth Hathaway. I'm a PET senior. That means should have done 2 co-ops. COVID made it a little bit weird last year, so I wasn't able to do my second, but I was able to do my first. The company that Professor Ferreira mentioned was Kiewit. It's a construction company. It's actually Kiewit Power Constructors. That's the one I worked on in Pennsylvania. I helped build a 2-into-1 combined cycle power plant, which means we had 2 gas turbines into 2 boilers into 1 steam turbine. So co-op is essentially just a really easy way to learn a little bit more about like what you're actually going to be doing. It's easy to learn through Maine Maritime because all of our stuff is hands-on, but it gets a little bit more real during your internship. They are paid internships, so you're not completely wasting away your summer. You do kind of in any major at Maine Maritime, when you sign up, you kind of sign away your summers. But the internships for PET are actually a lot of fun. You learn, at least I did, you learn a lot more when you're working on an actual power plant than you ever would in a classroom or reading books. And some people learn the opposite way. That's just my experience. But so you'll do 2 internships, one from your sophomore to junior year and then junior to senior year. This year is going to be a little bit different because when I did my co-op, I didn't have any STEAM hours. Now I realize I probably should have. I love Kiewit, but it was a little bit frustrating that I didn't get my STEAM hours. So now I'm technically not eligible to sit for my license yet. That doesn't mean later on in life that I can't. I can, as long as I work on an operating power plant and get STEAM hours, then I can go sit for it later on. But Kiewit is a different way that you can be a part of power generation. Actually seeing it go from the ground phases that you see in the picture here to a fully operational power plant. It's kind of the beast before you actually get into what we really learn about in the actual power generation. And it doesn't matter where you go for your co-op. There's a million different choices all over the country. anywhere that you can find a place, and they are all absolutely amazing. You will learn more than you ever thought possible.
Thanks, Seth. Okay, so third year, I'm gonna kind of go through the PET side, and then Laurel, please pipe in. So we've got Humanities 2, Tech Calc 2, Steam Turbines, Electrical Power 2, Thermo 2. And then we have, oops, sorry about that. Technical Communications, Steam Power Systems, Gas Turbines, Automation and Control, Power Control Electronics, and Engineering Economics. So, Laurel, do PEO students take Thermo 2?
I don't think they do actually. They
Okay.
take Thermo 1,
Okay.
so they
Take
get it
Thermo
off.
1.
They get a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But they do. I am seeing also the PEO students take Machine Tool 2, which is a very hands-on and slightly challenging class. It's where they, if you don't know what Machine Tool is, it's where they actually learn how to use a lathe and a milling machine, and they got to build valve stems. They got to build a number of different projects that are that you're required to make sure that they're the exact parameters, and if they are not, then they say, hey, you got to start over again. So it's a pretty hands-on, really fun class where you get to work with metal. So again, you can see the difference. They don't have, as a PEO student, you do not have to take Thermo 2, but you do have to take Thermo 1. So you do get the theory, but you also get to take more hands-on classes such as Machine Tool 2.
Awesome. Thank you. This is just a photo of one of our labs, the electrical power lab. Some of what we learn about in electrical power, we're learning about how we can sync a generator to the grid, and there's actually a lab where we get to do a simulation of that. In the fourth year, we've talked quite a bit about co-ops, so I'm gonna kind of skip over CO300. I will let Laurel talk a little bit more about PEO co-ops in just a moment. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the capstone as it relates to electrical power lab. So we're learning in electrical power lab how to sync to a generator. And then in capstone, capstone 1, we are actually learning how to operate a coal-fired power plant. And then in capstone 2, we're learning how to operate a 2-on-1 combined cycle natural gas plant. So we're learning theory, we're learning electrical power, and then we're actually sitting in a control room simulated environment and running these power plants. It's pretty cool. Laurel, did you want to talk a little bit about the PEO co-op and what you're looking for an approved co-op in that major?
Yeah, this was my first year being a PEO co-op coordinator, and it was a really interesting experience seeing the students get out there in the real world and do their co-op projects. And my expectations from them is to do a pretty in-depth writing assignment about all the different systems that they find in a power plant or whatever. I had one student that actually worked in a hospital and was able to apply his skills in a hospital in Massachusetts and get STEAM hours towards his license. So it's a really challenging class because it's very writing demanding, and it's also basically utilizing all their school skills that they have learned at Maine Maritime and applying it in the real world. And we would like to see 1,050 hours of STEAM time by the end of their co-op. And again, it's usually a 10-week program. The students really like it, they enjoy it, and after they do their co-op, it's kind of like that carrot in front of their nose. It really kind of jumpstarts them to finish their career at Maine Maritime, because they say, oh, this is what I want to do. I really enjoy, working at a power plant, so it's a really great class.
Awesome. So I just want to kind of follow up on what Laurel said about wanting the PEO students to get those STEAM hours. It is going to be pretty important for the PEO students to get those STEAM hours because they are not in an ABET accredited program as far as the major. So if they wanted to, they are not going to be able to pursue an engineering technology master's later in life if they wanted to. Whereas PET students, because it's ABET accredited, if they wanted to go further their education as far as engineering technology, that ABET accreditation is a big deal there. So we really encourage PEO students to get those STEAM hours. When I was the PEO coordinator, I would not accept a co-op where students did not get their STEAM hours. And what I'm hearing is Laurel will not either. So if you think that construction is something that you want to pursue, especially in the power industry, you're going to want to think hard about PET rather than PEO. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that for a moment. As far as the capstone, PEO and PET capstones are very similar. They both do the operations for as far as the simulators are concerned, but the projects are different. So that's really where the difference in capstone comes. I'm gonna skip over that real quick so that we can talk about graduates and job placement because we've only got about a minute left. As far as PET and PEO job placement, we find that PEO students tend to go into operations. They're gonna be operators in power plants. That's really what they're qualified to do. And then the PET students can go, they have more doors. So they can do things like all the things that the PEO students are qualified to do, the PET students are qualified to do as well, with some things on top of it. So this is a good list of the companies that we have been, our PET and PEO students have been going to. GE Field Services, Re-Energy, Hewitt, that's the construction company we talked about, ND Paper, Sappy Paper, Resource Power Group, Eversource Energy, Wheelabrator, EcoMaine, Verso Paper, Covanta, International Paper, Evergreen Packaging, Southern Power, and Duke. So Southern Power, Duke, Covanta, EcoMaine, Wheelabrator, those are all power producing facilities. Wheelabrator, EcoMaine, and Covanta are waste to energy facilities. Re-Energy is a biomass plant. They have a few locations here in Maine, and then we have a few paper manufacturing facilities. So please, Seth or Laurel, if you have anything you want to add about graduates, go ahead and pipe in, and that really wraps it up for us.
Just a small thing for the PEO program. These companies that you see here are looking for a lot of students. I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the near future, there's going to be a huge retirement in these companies where there's a lot of people that have been working at these power plants for a long time and they're about to retire, and there's a need for a new generation to come in and work at these power plants. And I would say this is also a very limited list. There are definitely hospitals, colleges, smaller companies that would accept their license that they're going to get. And also, even though the students are eligible to sit for their Maine Maine stationary steam license, it does not necessarily mean they only have to work in Maine. It makes their resume very likable to other states that are employing power engineers. So even though it doesn't open as many doors as the PET program, it still is a great program if you would like to work in a power plant or a paper plant, a waste to energy plant. And also if you would like to, go the route where you work in a power plant and then a couple years down the road, you want to work as a manager, you potentially could. You just need to, kind of, as they call it, hose pipe your way up, work your way up to it. While the PET major, you could sit as a manager out of the door from a maritime. So there's differences between the two majors for sure, but both are great programs.
I couldn't agree more. I completely agree, Laurel. That's great.
I just want to add one quick thing if I can.
Yes, go ahead, Seth. Yeah.
So in my time at Maine Maritime, I've known a lot of seniors ever since my freshman year. I came in, and some of my best friends, even freshman year, were seniors. And in my time here, after the seniors graduate, I don't know of very many people that weren't hired or offered a job within 90 days of graduating. A lot of PET and PEO majors have a job right out of the door, don't even have to go looking for them. That is all.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Laurel.